Hey everybody, thank you for joining me for week 4 of Cooking with Shane. Again, this summer is just flying by. I hope you are having a great summer. I hope you're having a lot of fun. I hope you're trying these recipes and I hope you're kind of experimenting with them and changing them and making your own. And I just hope that you're enjoying them. So we're going to go ahead and get right into this week's recipe. It's really quick and it is, again, based on our theme of Tails and Tales. So an animal named dessert, and this is a hush puppy. Now hush puppies usually aren't necessarily desserts, they're actually kind of served as a side. It's a very southern dish. It's basically a cornmeal, kind of a cornmeal donut. It's usually savory, which means it's not sweet, and they usually kind of serve it almost like you would a fry. It's sort of a side dish to a lot of fried meals in the South. We're going to tweak it a little bit and we're going to make it a dessert. So basically what we're going to make is kind of a cakey cornmeal donut. It's really easy to make. You don't have to, like most donuts, you have yeast and you got to wait for it to rise. This is just a cake donut, so all we have to do is make the batter and throw it in the fryer. So let's show you how to make the batter. Okay, so what makes this a kind of a corn flavored cake is our cornmeal. So you notice that it's much more yellow than our regular flour. Now we can't use all corn flour because corn flour is a little grittier and it doesn't have the gluten proteins that the regular flour does, so it won't hold up. So we do have to use a blend of regular flour and corn flour. So this is 3/4 of a cup of cornmeal and 1/2 cup of regular flour. We're going to add that to our bowl. To that, we are going to add 2 teaspoons of sugar. So believe it or not, sugar would be in the normal cornmeal. It is kind of a sweeter, or in the hush puppy, it is kind of a sweeter side, but it's not necessarily a dessert like we're making it. And I'm going to add a teaspoon of baking powder. So this is what's going to help keep the cake kind of fluffy and light and help it kind of grow up and get kind of nice and fluffy. So there's that. And then I'm going to use a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. So these are both things that are going to help keep the hush puppy light and fluffy and airy. Alright, we are going to add 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. So this is where we're kind of deviating from what a normal hush puppy is, because we're going to make it a little more sweet. If you don't like the cinnamon as much, just put a little less in. And just a pinch of salt. We're going to give this a good whisk. Get all those ingredients together. Make sure you've got all those. So sometimes you see how there's like a big chunk. So that's the baking powder. So you want to make sure you get all those big clumps kind of out of there, because they won't break down in the cake, so you'll just end up getting a big mouthful of baking powder or baking soda. So when it's warm like this and the humidity will kind of make it all clump up. So just kind of push them down, they'll break up. As long as your chunks aren't too big, you should be okay. Okay. So now we're going to add our wet ingredients. So far this is sort of like a cake. We always do our dry ingredients and then our wet ingredients. We don't do them all at once because you don't want anything to clump. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a little well in the middle of our flour. We're going to dump in 1/2 cup of buttermilk, 2 eggs, 2 teaspoons of melted butter that's been cooled. So you don't want to put this in hot. You want to melt it and then let it cool for a minute or 2. And we're going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. So again, this is where we're deviating from a normal hush puppy. A normal hush puppy wouldn't have vanilla in it. And we're just going to give this a whisk. going to be kind of a thicker batter because you want to be able to scoop this. If this was too runny, you wouldn't be able to scoop this and make a solid form. We mix it. Alright, and that is how easy it is to make the batter for the hush puppies. Super quick, super easy. Now all we have to do is fry it. So I have an electric griddle, electric fryer I mean, and I've got it set to 365. So I'm just going to scoop my batter out and put it into the oil. If you don't have an electric fryer that you can set to a certain temperature, there are thermometers that you can go out and buy that you can just kind of set on the side of the pan, and it sits in the oil and it will tell you what temperature you're at. You want to be at least 365 because you want these to cook relatively fast. Because if you don't, all the oil will kind of sink into it and seep into it, and you'll get like a really soggy, oily hush puppy. And what you want is a really kind of crisp outside, but a really doughy, fluffy inside. And you can't get that if your oil is not hot enough. And if it's too hot, it's going to burn the outside before the inside cooks. So getting one of those thermometers, you can use it for other things too, so it's actually a really good tool to have in your kitchen. I guess we just fry them now. Okay, so my oil is at 365 degrees. I've got just a small 2-ounce cookie scoop. So I just literally scoop out and I plop in my oil. Now if you don't have a cookie scoop, you can use kind of what I call the 2-spoon effect or technique. So you just dip in with 1 spoon and you take your other spoon and kind of help form it into a ball and then into the oil. So that's going to give you a smaller hush puppy. So whatever technique you want to do, you can do that. We're going to let these cook for about 1.5 minutes on the side, and then we're going to flip them, and we just want a nice golden brown. Alright, so once you get them nice and golden on both sides, we're just going to put it on a paper towel and let it drain just a little. Let the oil drain off just a little bit. You can kind of see all the oil's coming off. We don't want to eat all that oil, we just wanted to use it to cook the hush puppy. So we're going to let this set for like a minute, and then if you want to, you can take this one step further and you can roll it in powdered sugar, and that will give you a powdered donut, but you can actually eat these just like this, and they're just as good.